Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Michael's Corner. Um, I am woof, caught off guard for a minute. So tonight's episode, um, I will bringing on very special guest. He goes by the name of Storm Thomas. Um, If you guys don't know who he is, he used to be a pro wrestler. But due to his injury, his neck injury, he was forced to retire from in-ring action. And I'm going to let him tell you all about it. But before I bring him on, um, just you guys know the drill. You guys can follow me on social media. Facebook will be Michael's Corner, Twitter X, or wherever you want to call it. You guys can follow me there at Michael Pam. And you guys can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Michael's Wrestling Channel. Sorry there, I got caught off guard and I got people messaging me left and right. So let's not waste any more time because I want to bring on my guest for this evening, Storm Thomas. So so if you guys can bear with me, I'm going to invite him on to my live stream.
Let me just make sure everything's good.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. I can't hear you though. So let me see
Uh-oh.
why. There you are. I just heard you say, uh-oh. All right. Now we're good. Everything's working. All right. I came in and tested everything about 30 minutes ago before I had everything, the chair and everything in place, but it said it took, but now we're here. We're good to go now. How are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Hey, fantastic, brother. We're just another wonderful night here.
Yeah, I just realized before we went live, before we before I started the interview that there's a time difference, 8
Where do you
o'clock.
live?
I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So
Okay. So you're central time zone. I'm Eastern time zone.
yes.
Got you. Got
Yep.
you.
Yep. And it worked out perfectly because, I just got home from work around 4 o'clock. So
Okay. Cool. Cool.
um Storm. So what basically what Michael's Corner is about is I ask all the hard hitting questions
For sure.
and and that's just about it.
Let me shut
So
that real quick. That looks terrible. All right, brother. Much better. Here we go. All the hard
all
hitting
right.
questions, whatever you want to talk about, I'm open.
All right. So my first question to you is, how did you get your start in wrestling?
So that's a fun story. Um, I was already graduated college and I was already working at the university that I graduated from. I went to college in a very small town called Oskaloosa, Iowa. I went to William Penn University. None of this is a secret. I talk about it all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
it was at that time, like, I hadn't really been watching wrestling until probably my junior or senior year of college. After I left high school and moved to Iowa for college, I kind of fell off the wrestling train, so to speak. Um, and then a buddy of mine took me to an independent show up there, and I was like, oh, there's wrestling outside of WWE. This is wild. Like, I never knew that that was even a thing. And I went to the independent shows a few times. I had a great time. I actually made some really good friends from those shows. And I learned that the promoter of that company actually was a student at William Penn University. He was working on a communications degree, digital media degree. And at the same time, he had been running Central Empire Wrestling right here for quite a few years already. And, and he had started it up in high school and then through his college career, and it's still going today. And the way the story goes is he actually would come to my office and he would
Okay.
try to talk to me about joining and training and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally came to my office every day for almost 2 or 3 weeks. And he was like, come on, man, like, you're in decent shape, you've got a good look, you love wrestling, I think you'd be so good at it, you're so charismatic with the way you walk and talk and hold yourself. I think this is something you could at least have a lot of fun with. And I was like, look, man, I'm working on my master's degree, I've got a full-time job, I'm married, I had just had my first daughter, and she was only like 5 months old at the time. And I'm like,
Okay.
I gotta be a man now. You gotta put on your big boy pants, and no more time for child's games, right?
Right.
Well, he also knew that I had a certification in strength and conditioning and personal training. I was a certified personal trainer at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say about a week or two went by where he stopped coming to my office altogether. And then lo and
Mm-hmm.
behold, he shows up and he goes, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. And I said, all right, what's going on? He goes, I need to get in better shape. Can you help me? I said, absolutely, I can help you. He goes, I know you're a trainer. I want to be able to pay you for your services. Uh, how much training could I get for $3,000? And I looked at him and I tilted my head like a confused dog. And I said, that's a really
Mm-hmm.
specific number you're asking me about. That's the exact same number it is to attend your training school. And he just smiled at me. He goes, look, I've never done this before, and I don't want you to ever tell anybody I did this. But let's be honest, Michael. It's been 13 years. I'm out of the game. It's too late for him to get mad at me. So we worked a
Mm-hmm.
deal where I worked as his personal trainer, and he trained me to wrestle along with a handful of other independent talents from the Midwest and Iowa area. And then I trained enough to at least be good enough to get on the shows. Did a few battle royals, was put in a tag team with a veteran independent wrestler so I could continue to learn while working. And the goal was only to ever work for that promotion. But then
Mm-hmm.
it was time to pick up and leave Iowa, and we decided to move to Florida, where the journey continued. When I moved to Florida, I started managing a gym in Tampa. And lo and
Mm-hmm.
behold, one of the people that came to that gym was Steve Kern.
Okay.
Al Perez also attended that gym. Uh, Multiple professional wrestlers that we all know and love attended the gym that I managed. So that it was no secret. My love for professional wrestling leaked out, and Steve Kern and I became great friends. And I could talk for hours just about my relationship with him. But long story short, for the sake of your podcast, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he told me straight to my face, he was like, look, I can introduce you to some people, I can help you get booked in some places, but you need to continue training, and here's where I recommend you go. And he referred me to a gentleman by the name of Frank Reyes. So I went and
Mm-hmm.
trained with him. And then I realized like you don't ever have to stop training. So I would train with him. There was another school that popped up called Uproar Pro Wrestling. Jay Lethal started training some students out of there.
Okay.
And then Jay Lethal also opened up the wrestling laboratory, which is down here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I would bounce around. There was another school, the WWN Training Center. WWN hosts they host FIP, and they used to be the host of Evolve before Evolve's media library was sold to WWE.
Okay.
So I would train at all of these places and try to, get to know people, but and then eventually everything just kind of took off from there. But that's kind of how I got my start.
Oh, that's a wonderful story, my man. That's good that you got a chance to do all these things and whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
that was just the first 2 years.
oh, okay. So, you wrestle in some matches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what some of the greatest matches you had while you was an in-ring competitor?
That's a great question, Michael. Some of the greatest matches that I think I had, I would have to say I wrestled Billy Gunn and Austin Theory in a triple threat match down in Deerfield Beach, Florida. I thought that was a great match. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember exactly how long it went, but the story behind that made it even more interesting and just goes to show you the amount of professionalism of the people I was working with. Austin
Mm-hmm.
Theory's flight got delayed by like
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 hours, literally to the point. And I kid you not, you can, if you ever get the opportunity to talk to Austin or to Billy, they will back up this story 100%. Austin
Mm-hmm.
Theory's vehicle, his Uber, literally pulled in 7 minutes before Billy and I were supposed to go out of the curtain.
Oh, wow.
It was such a tight frame that the promoter had already came to us freaking out. He had already said, "Hey, if Austin can't make it, can you two just do a singles match?" And we just kind of looked at each other and laughed because we'd worked together before. And Billy goes, "Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think we could figure out how to have a singles match." And we were already kind of shrugging and laughing it off and assumed it would be a singles match. And 7 minutes before we're supposed to go out the curtain, here comes Austin, and he's already in his gear. He was like, "I'm so sorry, guys. I changed in the car. Can we please still put this together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kid, absolutely." So
Mm-hmm.
we took some stuff, we moved it, we added in anything and everything he wanted to do. We pieced it all together, and I thought it came out fantastic for having only been able to communicate for 7 minutes. So
Wow.
that was one of the best. I would say by far my best, absolute greatest match was against JTG at Central Empire Wrestling in Ottumwa, Iowa. It was
Mm-hmm.
everything clicked, if that makes sense. It was one of those moments where it felt like time stood still.
Mm-hmm.
The timing, the the engagement from the crowd, the chemistry that he and I shared. It was being able to look back and really subjectively pull it apart. I would say that was the best wrestling match I ever had.
Mm-hmm. So, I heard that you talked about this a lot on your live streams and whatnot, but you went for you went for the WWE tryouts, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And can you explain to my YouTube audience, how was the training like? What was, the situation and all that? Because I heard you talk about it a lot on your Twitch live stream. So can you explain to them what was the tryouts was like in WWE?
Absolutely, man. It was honestly in the moment, it was one of the most just surreal and brutal experiences that I'd ever been a part of, because your stress levels are at the heights that you've never experienced before. Your anxiety is super high because you're trying so hard to impress everyone there. And you also want to deliver your best performances every time that you get the opportunity to be in front of somebody. So what WWE did was they brought me out to Orlando, put me up in a hotel, and for 3 days I would be at the training center at the PC, and we were doing constant drills, in ring, rolling around. We were doing forward rolls. We were doing back rolls. We were doing quarter rolls. We were running the ropes. We were taking bumps. We were doing drop downs, shoulder tackles, all of the basic maneuvers that they already know we can do. They just want to put us on the spot. We went for long runs around the entire complex. We went into the training facility and they had us do strength and conditioning workouts. And there were moments where it felt like they were literally just trying to break us down, to see who was tough enough, who was strong enough, not only physically, but mentally as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and honestly, I was in there with a very great class. When I look back, I completely understand why they hired who they hired. And after some time and a lot of communication with Matt Bloom, I
Mm-hmm.
understand why they didn't choose me. And I was able to very quickly understand that and come to terms with that. But the workouts were intense. They told us in the emails prior, they were like, we want you to bring at least 3 t-shirts per day, because if you begin to sweat through your shirt too much, we're going to tell you to go change your clothes. And I was kind of confused at the email. And then when they explained it to us when they got there, the amount of work that they go through to take care of their rings, their equipment, the cleaning process, the sanitizing process, I would have never imagined the work that goes into keeping that place kept up and as nice as it is. But it was one of the
Mm-hmm.
most humbling experiences. I had a great time doing that. On the very last day, they had us do tryout matches. I got to have my tryout match in front of Robbie Brookside, William Regal, Coach Matt Bloom, uh, a bunch of guest trainers. I remember Robbie E was there. Caden Carter was there. Katana
Mm-hmm.
was there. Just a bunch of the people that we see on TV today that I'm actually, good friends with now, were there to, help the coaching. But I got to have my tryout match with Lance Anawai.
Okay.
And Lance and I had a fantastic little 5-minute match. We got a lot of praise from not only Coach Bloom, but William Regal as well, because of the fact that we worked a hold into the 5-minute match. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I haven't seen anybody use an abdominal stretch that effectively in a long time. Thank you. And to me, that meant the world, because I was the heel in that match. So I was the one who utilized the abdominal stretch, and it was nice to get his praise. But it was a very humbling experience. I was very honored to be a part of it. It will probably be one of my top 5 favorite moments in wrestling for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's an amazing story right there. You got to, go to a WWE tryout and experience firsthand what's it like. And that's a great story. So so my next question to you is this. How did you injure your neck? Injure your neck? Did you get surgery on it? And then just tell everyone what's the prognosis of everything that you had to go through,
Yes,
and
Michael.
whatnot.
So it actually happened back in January. Um, the end of December, I had a I had an opportunity to work with and debut for the National Wrestling Alliance. It was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing match. It was a triple threat match. Myself, Magic Jake, and Anthony Katina. It was a number one contendership opportunity for the TV title.
Mm-hmm.
Great triple threat match. Had a lot of fun. Got a lot of great praise from not only some of the guys in the back, but from production as well. So they had invited me to the next set of tapings where we were going to sit down and talk a little bit more. And that was going to be in the middle of January. Well, that first week in January, I was booked to go up to Iowa to go to Central Empire Wrestling. And I don't know if you remember, but there was a lot of really dangerous winter storms in that first week of January. So all the flights and trips were canceled. They ended up canceling the show. Well, I had
Mm-hmm.
already had the time off of work.
Okay.
So I left the airport. I went home, had a great meal, and decided I'm going to get a really big lift in. I got 2 weeks before I go to show up at the NWA, and
Mm-hmm.
I am going to make sure that I train super hard for this. Or
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, 1 week. I had 1 week before the match at NWA and the tapings that they were about to have. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like a Friday night. I came home, I lifted heavy, I lifted hard, great workout. And like 4 hours later, my entire left arm felt like it was on fire.
Ooh.
I didn't know if I was having a stroke or a heart attack or if I had done some sort of weird, serious damage to my arm, but I had to go get it checked out. Um, the burning and the tingling started to kind of go away. And it turned into a numbness only in these three fingers: my thumb, my index, and my ring finger. It just they went kind of numb and
Mm-hmm.
tingly instead of feeling like they were on fire. So I waited a couple days and I'm like, okay, well, if it went away that quickly, maybe it'll continue to go away. Maybe I just tweaked something. Maybe I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
After a few days, I had to go get it checked out and I had to contact the National Wrestling Alliance and tell them that I can't make that next show. I'm pretty sure that I might have pinched a nerve, and until it lets go and releases, like I don't feel comfortable to get in the ring with somebody and be able to ensure their safety, let alone my own.
Exactly.
And that's key for me is I don't ever want to be responsible for somebody getting hurt. So
Exactly.
I
Because like if you like work, if you decide to wrestle, and if your injury is so damaged, if you put somebody like in a suplex and then you can act and your arm just fell numb and whatnot, you can drop somebody over their head. And better
absolutely,
part
Michael.
and better part, you can injure someone else.
I'm glad you actually brought that up because one of the maneuvers that I was known for in my arsenal was a stalling suplex. So if I was trying to hold a guy up, and what I would do is for that first 5 seconds, I would release my right arm. So I would
Mm-hmm.
only be holding them with my injured arm, and I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then by then the crowd would catch on and they would chant 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I would release. But I didn't feel comfortable being able to do that because I didn't know how strong I could be. So I ended up going to the doctor. My
Mm-hmm.
doctor had me take a bunch of x-rays and a bunch of MRIs and fast track the story a little bit. I ended up going to meet with a surgeon, and the surgeon gave me the news that I had what's called foraminal stenosis of my cervical spine.
Oh wow.
And what that means is that the discs between my C5, C6, and my C6, C7 were worn down so badly that I needed to have either a disc replacement or have a fusion. And when
Mm-hmm.
they pull the old discs out, that should alleviate the nerve damage and should allow me to gain function because over the course of time, I experienced a lot of muscle atrophy in my left pec, my left arm, and my left lat, which is all connected to that strain of nerves that were pinched due to the stenosis. So I did end up having surgery. I've got this really cool scar right here They went in
Mm-hmm.
through the front. They opened everything up. They removed the two discs and they put in two, um, basically like silicone discs, just two replacement discs.
Oh, okay.
It was a 1 day surgery. I went home that day and went back for the checkup, and the doctor let me know that everything looks great. I do still have some numbness and tingling in my index finger and my middle finger, but he said in time that'll go away. He goes, imagine
Mm-hmm.
you have a garden hose outside and you put a cinder block on that hose. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
wait 3-4 months, pull the cinder block off. That hose is still going to be pinched. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to just let time open that back up. He goes, but the good news is the surgery went very well. I'm healing very well to the point where I've now been cleared to start training and start working out again, which has
Mm-hmm.
always been a very big part of my life. And the fact that I was unable to do so for the better part of 5 months really messed with my body, but also my mind a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to put all that past us. We've been training now for a few weeks, almost 1 month. I've been able to train daily. The strength is coming back. Everything is
Mm-hmm.
looking good. The surgeon did suggest though that I not wrestle anymore. He literally
Mm-hmm.
said, he was like, look, I'm not saying you cannot. What I'm saying is you probably should not. He goes, because you could damage any of the work we've done, or you could cause damage in the upper part of your neck. And the higher up you go in the cervical spine, the worse it gets and the more difficult the surgeries become.
Mm-hmm.
So, so looking at my age and my lifestyle and all of the factors that go into it, I had to make the decision to agree with the surgeon and say, you know what? You're right. Because by the time I'm able to regain all of the strength that I had, by the time that I'm able to try to build that left side back up to what it was to match
Mm-hmm.
the right side, could take
Mm-hmm.
potentially a year of being
Mm-hmm.
out of the ring, a year of not competing, a year of basically just resetting myself, which means by the time I'm ready to come back, I've lost a year's time. And to try to
Mm-hmm.
make a comeback at my age after being gone for over a year, it's just not really in the cards for someone like me who is an independent talent. You know, a lot of people say, well, Daniel Bryan did it, Bryan Danielson. Look at
Mm-hmm.
Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland did it. And I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
guys, but understanding the difference of the level of wrestling that they're at compared to the level of wrestling I'm at. They're
Mm-hmm.
making $1 million a year to be able to make that comeback, as to where I'm getting, let's say, $100 a show.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to risk my neck for over $1 million, that's a lot different than risking it for $100.
Yeah.
So we made that decision. It was very tough. It still is tough, if I'm being honest. There are days where I have some hard times coping,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes honestly it's hard to look in the mirror some days.
Mm-hmm.
But I just have to stay positive and stay motivated, and find something else that made me happy. And one of the things that makes me happy is wrestling. So I've shifted my attention from in-ring competition to now uh, this. This is my podcast setup. This is my streaming setup. So
Mm-hmm.
multiple times per week, I stream wrestling shows. We do live reactions on my Twitch and on my TikTok accounts, and
Mm-hmm.
that has started to really pick up and build up, and it's been a lot of fun. And we also stream some Fortnite games from time to time. I also host a live podcast that I do with my wife. We call it Withstanding the Storm. It's kind of just a play on words on how to get through life, and
Okay.
withstand the storm of life. So
Mm-hmm.
through that shift, I've really been able to find ways to cope with the fact that I'm no longer an in-ring competitor, but still
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another get to be involved with wrestling. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really cool, even though it was a very negative start to my year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was about to ask you that. It's like, what made you want to start Twitch, Twitch and whatnot, because I think that's a great move to have, because you know, your in-ring career is pretty much done and over with. So you decided to go to this direction. So can you tell people, how does it feel to be on Twitch?
It's actually been great. The reason that I wanted to do that was I feel like there's a lot of people who still don't really understand professional wrestling. And right now we are at the peak of wrestling's popularity in the history of the world. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many amazing companies and amazing opportunities for wrestlers to work right now, which means that the fan base is going to continue to grow as well because the exposure is so high. If you think about it, almost every single night of the week, wrestling is on primetime television. And
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be people who have questions, but they don't know who to ask. So I decided maybe I could put myself out there, do a live watch party and watch with, people like you. And hey, Storm, what's your take on this storyline? Or what about this move? Or why would they do this instead of this? And I feel like because I had such a long run and worked with so many amazing people, it gives me, just that little bit of a leg up to say, well, here's my thoughts on that. Here's why this storyline makes a lot of sense, you know, and hopefully I can be a little bit entertaining. I feel like I'm pretty good at talking to folks. I feel like I'm pretty good at being able to communicate what's going on to them on their level so that they have a better understanding of, you know, the championship process and who's number one contender and why, and, just things of that nature, or be able to explain some of the history because I have been following it so closely for so long. And just being able to have fun and friendly debates about wrestling is a lot of fun for me. So that was one of the reasons that we started up the Twitch channel and live streaming on TikTok as well.
Okay. So my question to you is this. How do you deal with, okay, like, let's just say that perhaps you saw something on social media and you saw that this fan was saying some pretty inappropriate stuff about you and what you do and whatnot. How do you deal with the naysayers on social media and whatnot?
Well, Michael, the first thing I try to do is I try to make sure that I handle myself as an adult and as a professional, and having an understanding that sometimes when people, whether they come into your live stream or they comment negatively on your posts or on your YouTube videos or whatever the case may be, what people say is a direct reflection of who they are as a person, not who you are. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody watches one of my videos or one of my streams and is like, oh, this guy is a clown, that's not a reflection of me. That's a reflection of something that lives inside you. There are always going to be naysayers. There are always going to be people who feel that they have to make negative comments. And there's a lot of ways to look at that. And I've learned that you cannot beat hate with more hate. It's like
Mm-hmm.
trying to fight fire with fire, and that never works. All it does is increases the size of the flame. So
Mm-hmm.
adding hate to hate just creates more hate and more negativity. So I try to combat that with respect and with love. And if somebody comes at me, negatively, I just, hey man, I'm really sorry you feel that way or that I've offended you. If it makes it easier for you, please feel free to block me so you don't see my posts anymore so they don't offend you. And there's really not a lot you can say to a comment like that. I'm giving you the opportunity to block me. You do not have to see my posts. You do not have to engage in my social media platform. I'm okay. If I lose a follower, I lose a follower, but chances are, because of the kindness that I display to the naysayers, maybe I can educate them a little bit on anything that they're lacking knowledge in. Maybe I can turn their opinion around and help them realize that hate is not the way to go. Or worst case scenario, I lose a follower, they block me, and they move on with their life to the next account that's going to give them the negative attention that they're seeking. I'm just not going to entertain the negativity with additional negativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like the other day, the other morning while you was on your Twitch live stream, and because I was part of that, you know, I
I
was
remember.
part of the audience and whatnot, and you saw that comment that guy made that says wrestling is fake, and you told him, why don't you just fall out? Why don't you fall down? Try to fall down 10 times and tell me and see how that feels.
Right,
And
because there's a difference. That wrestling is not fake. I will tell you right now, the whole wrestling business has been exposed for longer than we can remember. It is
mhm,
not fake. It is scripted, it is planned out, it is predetermined. Whatever word choice you would prefer to utilize, go right ahead. But at the end of the day, myself and hundreds of other performers put their bodies on the line and they fall down and it really hurts, or they take a punch and it really connects. Accidents happen. People are human. But to
mhm,
try to discredit the abilities or the athleticism or the
mhm,
physicality that the wrestlers put themselves through night in and night out, it's just disrespectful. So what the message that I was trying to get across to him is like, hey, if you think it's so fake, why don't you try it? And then when he responded with no, that's stupid, I was like, well, then please understand that what you're saying doesn't make sense. If falling
mhm,
down on the ground isn't fake, then what is it? Well, uh,
mhm,
I just watch real sports, and I'm like, and that's great, but I don't come to your house and tell you that I don't like your couch. So please don't come
mhm,
into my house and tell me that your negative opinion. And then if you remember, we talked about how, because there were some people in the chat that wanted to kind of go after that guy, and I was like, no, 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 we're not going to do that. We're going to be positive about this. We're going to try to educate this young man because maybe he lacks
mhm.
the knowledge of the wrestling business and the industry that we all love so much. There are
Yeah.
ways that you can ask a question or pose a statement that doesn't come off so disrespectfully. And
Mhm.
eventually, he got so upset with the positivity and the love that we were sending in the chat that he left. And again, that was his
Yeah.
choice. And
Yeah.
he doesn't have to continue to consume my content. The block button is very easy to find.
Mhm. Yeah. And also I want to bring this up because you know what? This has been happening even in 2024. This has been happening, like in Minnesota mostly.
Okay.
And there's like and I'm not going to name some wrestling promotions that who does it or whatnot, but there is this one wrestling promotion that keeps on telling the younger talent, oh, if you wrestle for me, you can't go to this wrestling promotion or that wrestling promotion. And we talked about this earlier in the week during your Twitch live stream. So
Right.
now I'm gonna say here on Michael's Corner, can you tell everybody, and I mean everybody, the difference between the independent pro wrestling agreement and then the agreement where like a WWE, like a
Mhm.
WWE agreement or TNA agreement or AEW agreement. Can
Sure.
you tell them, my audience, the difference between those agreements, please?
Absolutely. When you are an independent contractor, when you are an independent professional wrestler, you make your own schedule. You choose your own shows, your own dates. You make an individual agreement with an individual promotion. So myself, I would have an individual agreement with Central Empire Wrestling up in Iowa that I would come up for the weekend, for the first weekend in July. We would agree on a
Okay.
price, we would agree on a date, a time, and everything that they wanted me to do. We would compromise here or there, and we would basically have a word of mouth agreement or a handshake deal. I would arrive, I would get paid for my services, and I would leave. Then the next weekend I might have an agreement with any other promotion. Maybe it's the NWA. I would be going to see them the second weekend, and we would have another handshake style deal. But there's no guarantee that Central Empire Wrestling or the NWA is going to want me to come back for their next show. I have to wait for them to book me. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, Central Empire Wrestling does not control my schedule. The National
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling Alliance does not control my schedule. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
charge of that. They only pay me per appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So if any company in the country ever contacted Storm Thomas and said, "Hey, we would like to book you for this date," we would negotiate the terms of that agreement. And then that would be that once I completed my job, got my paycheck, that would be the end of our agreement. It is a booking by booking by booking agreement, one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that means I can work where I want, when I want, for who I want, based on my desired rate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you are under a contract from the WWE, they are in control of your schedule. They tell you where to go, when to go, how to go, and who to go with. And you have an exclusivity to the WWE. When you are
Mm-hmm.
exclusive to one promotion, they can tell you you may not work for this promotion. You may not work
Mm-hmm.
for another promotion. Here are the terms of our long term agreement because WWE signs people for at least a year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for one independent promotion to try to tell a talent, you are not able to work at this promotion down the road, or we will not utilize you, that's called gatekeeping.
Yeah. And
We
that's what I hate.
we have
That's
to
what I hate.
stop that. If I'm not good enough to use, then don't use me. But do not try to manipulate or gaslight me into only working for your promotion just because you don't like the promotion down the road. If I'm good enough to work here, I'm good enough to work there, and I can keep my business with there separate from my business here.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen to me one time, only one time in my career, Michael. And a promoter
Mm-hmm.
looked at me and said, "Hey, if you're gonna work down the road over here, I'm not gonna book you anymore." And I said, "Okay, well, it's been great doing business with you. I'll just go ahead and pack up my things now." "Well, no, 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 no. I need you to do this show." And I said, I no longer work here, sir. You just tried to give me an ultimatum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we can talk about it. I said, "No, no, no. I'm okay." And I went
Mm-hmm.
to pack up my things and he apologized. And we had a long discussion about how I can work wherever and whenever I want to work on my terms, unless he was going to be paying me a six-figure or higher contract. And he said, "I don't have the
Mm-hmm.
ability to do that." I said, "Then you also don't have the ability to tell me where I can and cannot work."
Mm-hmm.
And we, again, as long as the conversation is handled professionally and respectfully, like adults, the
Mm-hmm.
message can be received easier. Now, had
Mm-hmm.
I had I blown up and acted a fool, that conversation would have never gone the right way. But
Yeah.
again, the gatekeeping does need to stop. As an independent promoter, you contract your talent show by show by show. I know that you want to have some long-term storytelling. I get that. I respect that. But then you have to make compromises as well and understand that these independent talents, they make their money weekend by weekend, show by show. And if you can't
Mm-hmm.
compensate them for the amount of money that this company is going to pay to keep them sitting at home so they don't work for that company, then
Mm-hmm.
you can't try to gatekeep them.
Yeah. And I also want to bring this up too, because, you know, I've seen this one too many times in Minnesota and especially at Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm not gonna throw names but at a
Sure.
promoter, but there was this one promoter who well actually two promote actually there was one or two promoters decided, oh, they're not gonna pay no they're not gonna pay the talent or the ring crew any money because all because of simply because they ran out of money. And I said to myself, what the are you thinking?
Yeah.
And I said,
That
come
that
on.
happens too often. And the
It's,
problem is these wrestling promoters, not every promoter, but there are certain promoters who just don't understand business. And you
mm-hmm,
have to have money to be able to spend money to be able to make money. I
mm-hmm,
cannot, and I'm going to stress this,
mm-hmm,
promoters should not try to book a show and rely on the gate admission of the fans to pay the talent. If I am a promoter running a show, I need to know up front what my cost is, and I need to have that money in my pocket. So let's say that I'm booking a venue. The venue costs $1,000. Booking X amount of talent costs another $1,000. The
mm-hmm,
ring, the transportation, everything else costs another $1,000. Michael, that means I need to have $3,000 to pay all these bills before the show ever starts. The
mm-hmm,
problem is some promoters operate solely off of admission sales, only off of ticket
mm-hmm,
sales. They're like, oh, well, it
mm-hmm,
costs $1,000 for the building. Here's the fee for the building. It costs $1,000 to get the truck, the trailer, everything I need to transport the ring. Here's that $1,000. Oh, yeah. Well,
mm-hmm,
yeah, Michael, I can pay you $100 to wrestle tonight. Just show up. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Well, then not enough fans come. And I don't have that extra $1,000 in my pocket. I'm relying on ticket sales. And when you're
mm-hmm,
relying on ticket sales only, you are bound to have this happen where you cannot pay your talent accordingly.
mm-hmm.
I've had that happen one time.
Oh wow.
And I had a promoter look at me and say, hey, we had to give refunds. We just don't have enough money to cover your cost. And I politely looked at him and said, okay, uh,
Okay.
I see that you have a really beautiful championship belt sitting there. So what I'm going to do
Mm-hmm,
is I'm going to take that belt with me, and now that's mine. Well, no, 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 you can't do that. I said, and who's going to stop me? And I took the belt,
mm-hmm,
and I told him as soon as he had the money to pay me my fee, I would give him his belt back. But he had 4 weeks, and if he couldn't come up with my money, then I was going to take something as a payment because you contracted me, and we had a written agreement, a handshake
mm-hmm,
deal that you were going to
mm-hmm,
compensate me not only for my time but for my performance.
mm-hmm,
It is not my fault that you were not prepared. So again, it comes down to understanding how business works. And a lot of these
mm-hmm,
promoters, they just don't understand the concept of business and how you have to have the money up front. When you fail
mm-hmm.
to prepare, you're preparing to fail.
Exactly. And you know something, and I even said this to one of my wrestling buddies and whatnot. I am so sick and tired of excuses. So that's like, you know what? At the end of the day, you are a wrestling promoter. It
Mm-hmm.
is your duties. You have duties and responsibilities to run a show and whatnot. And if you can't pay your talent or the ring crew or anything else like that, then guess what? You don't belong in this business. You don't belong in your business because there's a lot of talent that wants to go elsewhere, and you know, it's just that they're setting a bad example for them, because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to run a promotion.
Exactly. And it's like I said, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And if they're not setting up for 2 or 3 months ahead, then they're not going to last very long.
Mm-hmm. And also too, I want to bring this up before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
How how important it is for for you or any other wrestler to make sure your ring gear is clean. How important? I'm just saying. I'm just
You're not
saying from
wrong.
a. I'm just saying this from a perspective point. How important it is for you to keep your gear clean, or etc. etc.
It's the fact that we're on a wrestling podcast even talking about this tells you
Mm-hmm,
how big of a problem it is. But
mm-hmm,
the issue just comes down solely to each individual's basic hygiene.
mm-hmm,
Me myself, you see, what you get is what you see. What you see is what you get. When you look at my
mm-hmm,
setup, everything is dusted, everything is clean, neat, and tidy before I ever sit down and turn this camera on. Every time I'm seen in public, I look nice. My goatee is trimmed, it is cleaned up, my hair is done, my nails are trimmed, I'm clean, and I'm professional. Some people
mm-hmm,
just weren't brought up that way. Some people
mm-hmm,
don't find it important to smell nice. Some people don't find
mm-hmm,
it important to wash their gear. But the thing is, not only does it create a bad atmosphere, germs,
mm-hmm,
bacteria, and so on and so forth are real.
mm-hmm,
And not only should you want to smell nice, but there's always this opportunity that you don't know who's going to be at a show.
mm-hmm,
And if my gear doesn't look clean, let alone smell clean, but it needs to
mm-hmm,
look TV ready at all times because you
mm-hmm,
never know who's watching. And one of
mm-hmm,
the old timers, one of the veterans, somebody who may have been contracted in the past, may just bump into your indie promotion and come check out your show. And you could be one of the best wrestlers ever. But
mm-hmm,
if that guy takes a look at your tights or your singlet or your trunks, and it looks like they're a little dingy or they ain't been washed in a couple weeks, or maybe they're so worn down because they're 2 3 years old and you've never updated your gear. Well, clearly you don't take your own hygiene seriously. So I? Why would
mm-hmm.
the fan? Why would anybody else?
Exactly. Because, I seen that shit one too many times. Like, I seen like a wrestler, like, he wore that gear probably multiple times, and it got to a point where it just weared out. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, to myself, I was like, oh my freaking God. Can people just I mean, can these wrestlers learn how to wash their gear or get new gear? Because I know like getting new gear can be expensive, but I'm just saying. Oh,
Again, though, it's a business. I
mm-hmm,
myself am a business. I
mm-hmm,
I'm Storm Thomas.
yep,
You see my logo so many times on this screen right now. It's on the
mm-hmm,
neon light above me in the corner. It's on my
mm-hmm,
hat. I am a business, which means I have to have money to be able
yep,
to spend money to then sell things to make money. And
mm-hmm,
getting new gear is an investment into yourself. It's
mm-hmm,
also an opportunity for you to evolve and to change and to grow. And I do understand like it costs money. But again, you have to learn how to save money. You have to learn how to better plan, better prepare. If that means that you got to jump in a car to minimize expenses, we could rant about this for hours, Michael. But the point
mm-hmm,
is, again, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And if you're not
mm-hmm.
updating your gear, then you're preparing to fail.
Yeah, yeah. And I think hopefully wrestlers can listen to your point of view and whatnot once this episode airs, because let me tell you, Storm has been in the business longer, and it's that respect. You gotta respect the wrestlers who's been there a whole lot longer than you. And if
Sure.
you and I told this to some of the wrestlers, I was like, you know what? I may be a fan, but at the end of the day, this is my family. If we're hurting, we're all hurting. You
Yep.
know, we all help each other out. You know,
Absolutely.
so well, Storm, where can wrestling fans follow you on social media?
That's a great question, Michael. Thank you for asking. All of the fans can follow me at Storm Thomas 50. So when I rebranded everything after in-ring competition was over, I was able to secure the handle Storm Thomas 50 on all platforms. So on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitch, Cameo, any of these platforms, if you go to at Storm Thomas 50, my name, these photos, my little animated drawings will pop up. Those are my profile pictures. Feel free to follow. Feel free to, continue to support Storm Thomas and all of the things that we are doing. Again, we're doing live streams almost every single day of the week, uh, wrestling reactions, question and answer podcasts, a little Fortnite streaming here and there, still trying to entertain the audience and have a great time. So if you feel like
Mhm.
dropping a follow, or also if you are looking for health and wellness advice, I do have Storm Health and Wellness, which is a one-on-one online training based program for those people who are looking to get in shape or change their life around, or even just need some assistance with life coaching. I do offer that as well. So feel free to contact me via direct message, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Mhm. Well, thank you, Storm, for being on Michael's Corner, and hopefully I'll have you back on here again, because this has been a great episode, great interview.
Thank you, sir. I would love to. I appreciate
Uh-huh.
it.
All right. Well, you have a good evening, okay?
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yep. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. So that was a great interview. Storm Thomas, one of the nicest guys, and well outspoken. And that's the reason why I love about doing these interviews. I say, I love to interview, new new wrestlers, and whatnot, because this is what I love to do. And this is my hobby. It's my favorite hobby is to do interviews like this and whatnot. So and I really enjoyed it. And I've been doing this for, gosh, I've been doing interviewing wrestlers for 11 years and whatnot. So this is, you know, I'm living I'm living my life and enjoying doing these interviews and whatnot. And if you like something, if you're passionate about something, you should just keep doing it until you're completely tired of it and you want to do something else. Then you just do something else. But if you're passionate about doing something, I say stick with it, you know? So, you guys, that does it for this episode of Michael's Corner. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.